Hello and welcome to the Fishing Guide Podcast. We are at the Crappie compound and Joel is here. Are you a captain at the compound? Captain or general?
No,
or?
I just try to do what I'm asked to help.
Oh, so you're a soldier.
Yeah, maybe.
You're a foot soldier.
Whatever I need to be. We all try to pitch in and help, you know.
You're not higher up on this echelon.
Well, I may be sometimes not maybe.
Well, that's quite a deal. Tell them who you are and what do you do? You do some guiding.
Yeah, I own Joel Harris Fishing. That's what I do for a living is carry people out crappie fishing. That's all I do is crappie. Fish 12 months out of the year.
Oh, wow.
I love what I do. We've got great equipment. You go out, you're going to be in a new boat, most of the time, pretty new boat.
Right.
Big boat, so it's safe. And I've got some great products we use, cornfield fishing gear, B&M poles, crappie magnet. Try to make sure everybody catches fish, has a great time, and do it safely.
I think we should start with your boat because you mentioned your boat. Now, it's actually an ark.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Sea ark.
Sea ark. It is, absolutely is. I'm in the new 21-foot flex that there was a team of us that designed the boat. And I have the very first one. It is in production.
Boat one
now.
of
I
one?
have boat one of several now, but
nice.
for a while it was boat one of one.
Wow.
And we're very proud of the boat, the fishability, the quietness of it. The ride is amazing.
Right.
Probably I've owned a lot of aluminum boats throughout my life and throughout guiding. I started guiding in 2006. Worked and guided. I didn't guide full time, which I do now, but out of all the boats I've owned, it is my favorite boat. One of the smoothest riding aluminum boats I've ever owned, one of the quietest aluminum boats I've ever owned, and one with the most storage I've ever owned.
Wow.
But, it's the boats was designed by several people. They included a team of 5 or 6 of us that crappie fish regular, and they integrated a lot of ideas from us. You can lay 16-foot rods down on either side, flat in the floor or on the ledge built in it. It has air ride seats. It has a cooler built in it that is plumbed that cools the water in the live well.
Wow.
You can store up to 9-foot rods. They advertise it at 8.5, but 9-foot rods in the center. Storage compartments on both sides. It has a wash down system built in it.
Wow.
And just amazing boat.
Well, let's talk about the difference between fiberglass boats and aluminum boats when you're crappie fishing. Pros and cons.
Well, most everybody you talk to will tell you that if you're going to spider rig and push, you want a fiberglass boat. They're quieter.
Right.
But I've had 2 different clients recently in my boat with the design we put in the hull, with the insulation and stuff in it that tells me that my boat is quieter than their fiberglass boat.
Wow.
And it's always been that way. Your tournament fishermen, they always wanted a big fiberglass boat.
Right.
And I have actually caught fish out of this boat going into a 10-mile-an-hour wind, something that's hard to do sometimes when you're pushing.
Right.
And so I can't stress enough how impressed I am with this boat when it was finished.
Let's talk about a couple different techniques that you might use. You pull some stuff and then you also one pole.
One pole, yes sir, I do. But most of the time I'm power trolling.
Okay.
In the spring, of course, we're obviously going slower, but right now we're running 1.7 miles an hour.
Cooking.
And when you've got a wind coming against you and you're going into it, we fished yesterday morning going into a wind and was catching fish in this boat. So I'm pretty impressed. Yeah. And as far as long lining or pulling cranks out of it, you've got so much room in the back of this boat to do anything you want to do.
Right.
So,
and when you're with customers, is it when they call up, are they saying, hey, I want to learn how to long line, or hey, I want to learn how to single pole? Is that what happens?
I do have that sometimes, yes. I'll have people that call me up and they'll say, I would like to spider rig or a lot of them have learned that I'm doing a lot of power trolling now, so a lot of them call up there wanting to learn the power troll. But I do have people that want live scope trips. I do that also.
Right.
Not as much. I'd rather be pushing because then I'm spending time with both clients in the front of the boat instead of one at a time.
Exactly.
You know, and I don't like anybody being left out, but I do have some that want to go learn the live scope. I run 18-foot B&M power trollers this time of year. Earlier in the spring, I'll run PSTs.
Okay. Tell them the difference between those two poles, because those are two different models completely.
Absolutely. The PST is a lighter weight rod, and I personally run up to 2-ounce weights on it. Okay. The PSTs, we run a 3-ounce weight, and I've tried the 3-ounce on the PST. It will handle it, but not like it should, in my opinion. So I go to the power trolling rods.
Right, and that's what they're
designed for, is to push the 3-ounce weights. And I run a 1/4-ounce jig on bottom, 1/8 ounce above it on a 5-foot leader. And, of course, Les Smith, the godfather of power trolling, he sort of took me under his wing about 3 years ago. And it's been a blessing to me because it's changed. It's given me the ability to do a lot of different things. See, normally in the summer, all I would do was brush pile fish, single pole. And I think before we had talked about that. And I hadn't done a brush pile trip in a good while. It's been all power trolling because people want to learn to do it.
Last time I was in your boat, that's what we did.
Right.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, while we were having dinner tonight, I had 2 different people texting me, asking questions about power trolling, wanting to learn to do it.
Right.
So, you know, it's and this boat, I don't think you could have any better boat to power troll out of, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Right.
And it's gotten a lot of attention from other people that's trolling like we do.
Yeah. So, we're talking about rods, and you know a whole bunch about rods. So let's just break down. You got there's a new rod that B&M has out, the Black Diamond.
16-foot Black Diamond.
So tell us the design of it and how that design came about.
Well, anytime B&M has a rod that they're wanting to develop, of course, they go to the pro staff, and all of us have input. We get samples, and it ends up being manufactured to where it should be the best there is, and that's what we feel like we do. This particular rod is just amazing. It's got a counterweight system on the back of it.
Okay.
You know, it's cork handle, which I love cork. I feel like it's more sensitive.
Right.
And doesn't have foam. And the rod is amazing. The first time I had one in my hand, I was really impressed. And it's definitely got the backbone, believe me.
Right.
And, you know, each person with these counterweights on the back of it can change it to fit their field the best.
Right.
You know,
whether they want the tip weighted
or they want the tip weighted, or they want it light, or whatever.
Right.
And
what else does B&M have? What do they got for rods?
Man, they got it. Well, you know, we've got it going on.
We only got 15 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Well, one of the new rods that I really am impressed with, and I've been using quite a bit to cast in here lately, is the Ultimate. It's redesigned, totally redesigned. It's got a great handle on it. It's
Ultimate.
Yeah, B&M Ultimate. Yeah. And I've been casting with it now for about 6 months.
Right.
And I like to cast live scoping.
Right.
I enjoy that. I like to feel that thump. And a lot of times you can't just drop on them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's one rod. If you like to cast, it's a little on the light side, so it's a lot of fun
catching them. Right.
And I love it. So it's, you know.
What's another one? You have a combo, the 75th anniversary.
Yes, we do. We have the 75th anniversary combo, which is a great rod. It's got good backbone. The reel is great. I enjoy using it. But one of my favorite combos is the TCB.
Right.
You know, I mean, I love light tackle. So, I mean, I fished a tournament the other day on Pickwick with Joe Floyd, and I was casting with a TCB, and one day we had 4 fish over 2 pounds.
I was in his boat today. They're still in there. He hasn't taken them out yet.
So, I mean, I have a TCB in my boat, a couple of them, and a couple of Ultimates. And I don't go to the lake without them in case I decide I want to cast some.
Right.
And I grew up, my grandfather started carrying me fishing on Pickwick when I was 4 years old. And I grew up fishing on Bear Creek, on the creek itself that feeds into Pickwick.
Right. Yep.
And I go down and sit down on the rock sometimes and just sit there and cast. And I've caught thousands of crappie off that creek in my life growing up. And I haven't done it in several years till a couple of years ago. And I said, I'm going to get on the Ranger and I'm going down to the creek. And I'm just going to sit down and do what I grew up doing, with him, because he's gone now. He was my influence for crappie fishing, and he just taught me so much. He started tying hair jigs like in 1949. And and I always wanted to buy minnows, before we went to the creek. And he said, son, he said, if they can catch them on a minnow, I can catch them on a jig. And he could. He amazed me watching him use a rod and reel and the feel that he had and some of the things that he taught me. But I got my stuff, TCB in hand, threw it in the back of my Ranger, and I rode down the creeks to where the rocks, they made crossings for the farmers.
Right.
So it was like the water come over the rocks. Well, them crappie would stack up in there. See, early in the spring for the, when it spawn.
Right.
And I sat down there and filled a 5-gallon bucket up, casting, and just had a absolute blast. It wasn't no hooking to the boat, wasn't no filling up with gas. It wasn't the things that we have to do to get ready to go to the lake.
Right.
One rod and reel, a few fin spin heads, and some slab curlies. Hit the creek and just had me a blast.
So we're gonna pick your brain because you have a lot of experience and plenty of guiding experience. What's the one question they always ask you when they call up and they're like, "Hey, do you have life jackets?" What's the one fishing question that they ask you when they call up about a guide
Besides
trip?
how much it cost.
How much it costs. Well, how much does it cost? But,
that is the first question out of their mouth every time. But
what's the second question?
The second question is, fishing. Do you furnish everything? And absolutely. I tell them, I said, yes, I have life jackets. Right. I have all the equipment you need. I have the best rods in the business, in my opinion. I have some of the best lures we can use.
Right.
And I will take care of you. All you need to bring is what you like to snack on and some drinks.
All right. And so let's talk about fishing. What are some tips that you can give anglers to catch more fish? So let's start with what happens when a cold front comes through. You're a guide, boom, cold front, bluebirds, guys. How are you going to catch fish with clients?
Well, most of the time in that situation, the fish are going to be finicky. Well, if you can, I hate an east wind, but you can catch fish with an east wind.
Okay.
But you can catch them behind the cold front. One of the things I found out is to downsize.
Okay.
Number one, I downsize when they get finicky.
Right.
And most of the time a cold front, if you're fishing brush piles, they're going to not be out on the outer edges or up high in the brush. They're going to be stuck down in it.
Okay.
And I downsize, and when I do that, I use trout magnets.
All right.
I love them. I believe in them. I use 1/64 ounce heads, a trout magnet on it. I'll tip it with a slab bite, and I use a number 5 split shot above it, and I use 2 or 4 pound line.
Wow.
And caught thousands of fish doing that.
All right.
Just that is, and also in Clearwater, I use the same setup.
Okay.
So.
All right. Let's talk about lure color. So you're going out there. Let's just say it's an average day. How do you know what color lure to use?
There's several different opinions in the fishing world. I base mine a lot on what the fish feed on in the lake. Okay, and the time of the year. Just like when we have a mayfly hatch, I'm using a gold color or something like that, a dark color. In dingy water, I'm using something bright like orange and chartreuse or chartreuse. And I guess a lot of it comes from knowledge. I don't even think about it anymore a lot of times.
Right.
I just know where I'm headed fishing, what the color of the water usually is, and I get prepared. And one of my absolute favorite colors in clear water year-round is the gold trout magnet.
Yeah.
With the gold trout magnet head.
Wow.
Love it. And there's some people laugh. They're like, you use that? And I come out with 3 or 4 of them, when we're on a guide trip, and all the rods have got the same color tied on it.
Right.
And, the next guy may be fishing the same like I am and using a different color, but I tell everybody, if you believe in something and it works for you, use it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just me, you know.
Right.
Um,
Let's go with a tip. What would be a tip that you would tell the average angler to catch more fish? What should they do?
Study your lake.
Okay.
Know what the fish do, and follow the fish. I tell everybody that. They say, "How do you catch them year round?" Well, in the spring they're up in the shallows.
All right.
They move out. Follow those fish. If you can fish enough to keep up with them, like I'm gonna give you an instance on Pickwick.
Okay.
On Pickwick, early in the year, they'll be back in the shallows from what we call the railroad trestle. Really shallow water, 3-4 foot. As they move out, when the spawn's over, we follow them down the lake. Like right now, I can tell you where those fish are at on Pickwick.
Right.
And they have moved about 2 miles. I mean, you'll still catch a few fish up in that shallow water, but it's very few.
Okay.
And in between, but right now they're out close to the creek run and 20-25 foot of water around Aurora Springs from there plumb out to the river.
I see.
And that's, I tell people, you got to follow the fish to catch them.
Okay.
And after years of fishing, you sort of got in your mind where those fish are going to be at this time of year.
Right.
But that's not always the truth.
Yeah.
This week down here, a lot of the fish have moved up shallow, and they should be on out deeper. But we've had some weather. We've had a thunderstorm come through, a little front. Water's cooled off up in the back end some, from fresh water coming in.
Right.
It's danger, so they've moved back in there out of the clear water, which is a higher temperature.
Yep.
Like a 5 or 6 degrees difference.
Wow.
This week, that we've seen that happen this week right here on Sardis Lake.
Wow. That's a great tip.
Yep.
So you make sure you do that. That takes us to Tackle Time. Tackle Time sponsored by PICO Lures. PICO Lures has a complete line of hard and soft baits for everything, not just for crappie, but bass, walleye, stripers, whites, you name it, any kind of game fish, they're going to bite a PICO. So you can check them out at picolures.com. Joel, if they want to check out your guide service, if they want to call you up, ask you how much a trip costs, how many people can be in your boat and stuff like that, where are they going to go? Give us some information.
They can follow me on Facebook at Joel Harris Fishing. I'm on Instagram. Okay. I also have a personal page, Joel Harris, on that. We're working on a new website. We had one up. We've taken it down, but we're going to get it. It's be back up before long.
Okay.
Or they can call me, 662-424-2551.
There you go. There you have it. Like I always like to end the show, make sure you keep your hook sharp and your lures in the water.